Hey guys, we're back with episode 12. Sorry if I sound a little bit different. I recently just got braces and I'm still adjusting to learning how to talk again or talk without having a lisp. So please bear with me. It's kind of annoying, very much in the way, but you know, I needed braces, so here we are. Anyway, today's episode is basically talking about my struggle with consistency and where I'm at with it and kind of just my whole backstory and how it kind of is affecting me with the podcast, I guess you could say. So, hopping right into it, life happens. So, I want to start this off by saying life happens just because unexpected events can come up, and that can definitely mess up a routine or a commitment or any type of consistency that you have going on. So, for example, travel, unexpected events, maybe even a shift in priorities, last minute things pop up, just personal issues, health issues. Plenty of different things can affect commitment, and that can also affect your consistency as well. And with these random things in life that pop up, they tend to, act as something that can interfere with a routine or make a routine a bit difficult. And that's not an excuse, but that's kind of where I'm at now. For example, the past 2 months, I have been traveling a lot and just dealing with plenty of different things that I have to worry about over the next 3 or 4 months. And I think I'm in this period where I'm trying to figure out how to prioritize some of my commitments to school, to work, to this podcast, which is something that I do find to be very valuable. Um, like I said, it's not an excuse. Really, at this point in time, I just need to really focus in on what are my priorities. And all these things are priorities, but for this podcast, it's something that I really do want to hone in on and make that number one priority just because of the role that it's played in my life for the past few months. Like I said, I was traveling abroad, searching for apartments, midterms, all these different things I have going on. And that's part of the reason why this show hasn't been as consistent as it should be. Right now we're on episode 12. We should be around episode 15 or 16, but I fell off due to these different life issues and personal issues and all these different things. And I'll kind of focus in on these more a little bit as we progress through this episode. So maintaining a commitment to my priorities, and I kind of just mentioned this now, but just like the past month, really, I've fallen off of my routine overall. So that includes my morning routine, my afternoon routine, my night routine. My entire life for the past month has been out of whack, and I haven't really recovered or, put it back on track. So I'm looking at, like I said, at an apartment. I just recently found an apartment after about 3 or 4 months of searching. Very stressful process trying to find, an apartment that, fits all my needs, that's close to where I go to school, rent is affordable, excuse me. Just all the things that you need. We're looking at furniture, mattresses, all these different things that go into purchasing an apartment. There's so many like different little micro, things within that entire picture. So I'm dealing with that. I was also injured momentarily for about the past month and a half, and I'm just now getting over it. I had a pretty bad knee sprain, and I just haven't really been able to walk at all. So, that's also affecting my day-to-day life. And these things aren't excuses, but they are things that have popped up that have really affected other aspects of my life. I have upcoming deadlines with just signing off on things for travel abroad and getting passports and just different appointments for the dentist and just appointments in general, doctor's appointments, just appointments all over the place, really. Too many to name. On top of that, last minute projects, papers, assignments, midterms, all these different things. Right now I'm in school and we are approaching the last 2 or 3 weeks of the semester, so my workload is increasing even more, just like it was a month ago going into midterms. And this is a semester that's, flown by pretty quickly. So all these different things combining or adding up together are really affecting, what I'm doing on my day-to-day. And I'm kind of having a tough time, I guess you could say, managing these things that I have to worry about. So really it comes down to, planning and getting back onto my routine and just prioritizing some things over other things. All these things that I'm mentioning to you right now are priorities, but there's a way to go about knocking out each one of these things that I have to get done. So all of that basically adding up and not really focusing on the podcast as much has led to my inconsistency with the show. because I'm doing these other things that I have to do as, pretty important and urgent. And I'll sit here and argue that this is also very urgent for me just because of how important this podcast has been. It's been a turning point in my life, and I'll mention that a little later on as well. So I should be treating it as much of a priority as, apartment hunting or, last minute projects, because this is something that I do want to grow, and this is something that I genuinely enjoy, and I want to continue. Like I said, this isn't something I want to monetize. If it comes down to monetizing it, that's fine. But really, just the goal of this is to have real, authentic conversations with people from all over the world, just doing different things, just living their lives, and seeing how they go about it, where they're at in life, where their ups are, where their downs are. And to me, that's fascinating, being able to hold these conversations with people and being able to, take the value that they have or that they're able to provide and apply it to my life and to people around me and the audience that I have here for those of you who are listening. So I'm somebody that's always looking to improve and learn and grow, and that's why this is important to me, because this acts as an outlet for me to do that. So when I don't prioritize that, I'm kind of stunting my growth with the show, of course, and as my own person, because by doing this, I'm able to learn so much more than I would have been able to otherwise. So this show is a priority just because it's helping form who I am, and I really need to treat it as more of a priority, even though I have all these other crazy things going on. And me not being as consistent and missing the past 2 or 3 episodes due to my spring break and traveling to North Carolina, that's entirely my fault. This entire inconsistency thing, there's nothing to blame, even though I have other priorities going on. All this is on my fault. It's on my chest, and I think it's important that I'm recognizing that. Like I said, this podcast is very valuable to me. It's very important, so it needs to be at the top of my list of priorities. But overall, I want to paint you guys a picture of what I've struggled with in terms of consistency and where this journey kind of started and how I got to where I'm at now. So I struggled on and off for the past 4 years with consistency, and I'm going to narrow in on a very specific topic, I guess you could say. More specifically, whenever I start a project or any type of creative endeavor, I start that project with a ton of energy, and I'm excited to get, whatever I'm doing created, and, just customizing different things and throwing something together and just putting out all these crazy ideas. I'm somebody who has a ton of ideas, and I just want to throw them out there and just see what happens with them. But once the idea phase is over, or that honeymoon phase is over, that energy that I had in the beginning kind of trails off, and then I stop doing what I'm doing completely. I've had plenty of just different YouTube channels and just creative projects on the side. I wrote books, all these different things that I put a ton of work into. I made sure I put a ton of energy into it, a ton of work. I was committed at first, and then, like I said, it trails off. Once the grind starts, I get a little lazy. I slowly start producing at times where I should be inputting more effort, and that's what kills me. That's why with this podcast, this is I wanted this to be different. I wanted it to be a commitment that I thoroughly follow through with, even when things get tough, even when the workload's a little heavier, even when life is stressing me out and I have 1,000,000,001 different things to worry about. I wanted this to always be that thing that I come back to, no matter how hard it is for me in my personal life or even just the podcast altogether. And going back to my struggle with consistency, I just delay and distract myself with unproductive habits when I should be doing something productive, like this podcast. So, for example, say it's a Wednesday afternoon, and I know I have to, have this podcast done by Thursday night, so I can just have it ready to go out Friday afternoon. Maybe instead of working on the podcast, I go out and hang out with some friends because, I had a long week and I had a lot of work to do and I deserve a break. And that's true to a certain extent, but my friends will be there, but this podcast is something that really needs to get done. So for me, putting it off, I'm not really balancing my priorities. This is something that needs to get done, and I'm not really giving it the time or energy that it needs, which is my fault. And the key thing here is that for a while, I've been able to identify my issue. Some of the people in my life have been able to identify the fact that I start and I don't finish, or I'm an idea person, but then I trail off. So this is a project that I need to stay consistent with, and I do plan on staying consistent with, because for once I actually feel like I have a purpose, or this is a journey or a path that I need to go down. And it's a good idea. It's an idea that I have, but it's an idea that feels a little bit different than some of the other ideas that I've had, and so far it's helped me develop who I am. So I need to really hone in on that. So what's important now is for me to recover. Like I said, the past month and a half to 2 months, I've been off just due to traveling, spring break, midterms, apartment hunting, traveling abroad, all these different things adding up, and appointments and just different expenses that I have to worry about, and car payments and different bills, just real life issues that everybody deals with. But this is the first point in my life where I'm actually coming into contact with real world responsibilities. So I'm still trying to juggle this and manage it, and because of that, I've kind of trailed off in other areas. So at this point in time, it's just really just sitting here planning, getting back on my routine, and going from there. So I need to go through a recovery period where I limit my distractions and I catch myself before I replicate unproductive habits. So instead of maybe going out with my friends or playing a video game because I had a long day at school and work, what I need to do is suck it up and maybe, draft out the episode instead of not drafting it out. Stuff like that. And ultimately that just comes on to like the idea of working on or developing self-control. Because at the end of the day, you have to prioritize your commitments. And for me, this podcast is a very big commitment. And I'll say it over and over again. It's something that's added a ton of value to my life. And it's been responsible for a pretty positive turning point so far. So I need to treat it like something, or I need to treat it like that more specifically. Because the honeymoon phase is cool, but I need to get over that hump and be able to persevere and kind of push through, especially when that grind hits. That's where I'm at now. So I'm through this recovery period. I identified the problem. I know what it is. And really it just comes down to how I go about, slowly and methodically solving this issue. That's pretty much all I have for you guys today. I just wanted to address something very quickly. Maybe just explain to you why I haven't been as consistent with uploads. And it's just due to, like I said, real world issues that everybody has. They're new to me because, I'm a fairly young person here. I'm 21 years old, so I'm a young adult, still in college, still some help from parents, trying to be more independent, just trying to figure out how to be independent and just balance everything. So it's a little bit of both, me being inexperienced with just different world issues, and on top of that, falling back into some of my not so positive habits that I need to cut out and kind of learn from. Really, it just comes down to limiting distractions, and that's something that I've been working on for a while. But it's all about identifying and looking for a solution. But with that said, that's all I have for you guys today. So this brings us to the end of the episode. Consistency is back, and it's here to stay. I do want to mention that this podcast is going to be a weekly thing. Even with midterms and finals and stuff coming up, I do plan on, just pushing through it. Life gets hard, but that's what it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be easy. So no matter what I'm going through, I need to stay consistent. No excuses. All of this falls on me, and if it's something that I want to do, I have to do it. So that's just one little side note. I do want to thank you for listening, and if you did enjoy this episode, be sure to share it with a friend. If you get around to it, also leave a review. Give your real, genuine opinion on what you think of the show, maybe what you think of this episode, and I'd love to see some of your feedback. And while you're at it, feel free to subscribe on iTunes if you enjoy the show altogether. But that wraps this episode up. That's all I have, and I'll catch you guys next week. Don't forget to be consistent and stick to productive habits and routines. I'll catch you guys next week.